Run, run. All you can do is run. How did you get yourself in this situation? You're scared for your life and have nowhere to go. Why? Because you cut ties with your family and friends for something you felt was real. Cults and their leaders have been around for centuries and don't show any sign of stopping. They're not going anywhere. I will discuss in this speech what a cult is, a couple of the most infamous cults in America, and how people get involved and how they get away from these cults. To start off, I'll explain what a cult is. According to ChristianityToday.com, a cult, by definition, is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object. Usually with cults, it's a person, just one person that deems themselves the God or the Son of God or the person who speaks to God to get the followers. This website defines a cult as falling under three categories. One, exclusive. This means that you believe that your cult or group is the truth. They're the ones that are the only ones that know exactly what everything is about and that you're the only group that's right. Also, threatening your group members that if they leave, that their salvation is in danger. And a lot of cults actually use threats a lot in their teachings to scare people into staying or to make them think that this is the way that it's meant to be. That's exclusive. The next one is secretive. This means that only members can gain teachings, or even at times, only certain members get certain teachings that others don't. Also, many times the cult makes you take a vow of confidentiality, which means that you cannot speak to anyone outside of this group about what you have learned or what you do in this group. And many times they make you cut ties with your family because you no longer have anything in common, because the group is everything to you at that point. The next is authoritarian. And this means total loyalty to this one leader and only this leader. And you must be obedient to this leader and only this leader. Now that I've talked about the three categories of what exactly a cult is, I will now move into talking about different infamous cults in history. The first is the Manson family. And this is hard for people to understand that this is a cult because he wasn't really that religious in his following and with his followers. Charles Manson in 1967 started this cult or following, and he called his followers the family. His beliefs, although not really religious, it was still a cult with beliefs such as Scientology and Satanism and other historic beliefs. He believed that America would come upon a race war and that the African Americans would win this war. And when everybody, all the other white people were dead, that the African Americans would try and find a white person to come in and lead this new group. So his group, who they lived on a ranch all by themselves, he would say that they would come swoop in and save the day and become the leaders. Sex parties and drugs were often used in his followers' lives, I guess, in everyday lives. In the end, Manson ordered his followers to kill high-end white people and blame it on the African Americans. In all, there were 9 murdered by stabbings, and after they stabbed these people, they would take the blood and write things like "Rise" death to pigs, and helter-skelter on the walls with these people's blood. In the end, of course, Manson and his followers were charged with the murders and sent to jail, where many of them, especially Manson, still reside. The second one is People's Temple. Jim Jones started this from the 1950s to the 1970s, and his beliefs were mostly Pentecostal, but he attracted many African Americans because of his progressive views on race. And in the end, after a story in the New West magazine in 1977 on Jones and his cult, Jones kind of freaked out and moved his entire cult to South America, where he felt no one would bother them. It was just him, nobody else around, and they kind of built their own little town. Well, U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan went to meet with Jones after this happened, and he was shot and killed by the members. Jones then decided that instead of being prosecuted, he was going to go out with a bang. So before anyone could come and get him, he gathered all of his members, and they all drank a poison mixed with Kool-Aid. Over 900 people died that day. It was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, mass suicide in American history. Now that I've discussed different cults in America, I will finally discuss how people become involved in cults and how they manage to get away. According to psychologytoday.com, there are many reasons people become involved with cults. What they offer. Cults have a way of making it seem like they offer things like friendships, connections, identity, and making a contribution to something bigger than themselves. Also, these people tend to feel loved, and they feel as though they have yet to fit into society. They don't know where they are in society. So these cults gather them up and kind of pretend like they can help them find their way. According to ExitSupportNetwork.com, how do these people get away in the end? Well, there are 4 different ways. Walk out. Some just walk out. They just come to their senses all of a sudden, but they fear their lives forever. The second is they're kicked out. Many times they're excommunicated from the group, but they still believe and they're obedient and they follow these groups even though they can never go back. The third is a burnout, which means the cult and its members have physically and mentally abused this person so much that they can't even function. And many times these people become confused, physically ill, and they're unable to trust anyone, especially themselves. And the last is the find out. Some people stumble upon information that leads them to believe how unhealthy these cults are. So they end up leaving. But then they also fear for their lives. And it takes them years to get the brainwashing out of their system. In conclusion, there have been many cults throughout American history, yet some people still get brainwashed, thinking these groups are a family. In this speech, I've given you signs of what a cult is, how people become involved in cults, and different cults that have come across America. So before you lift your cup of what you think is Kool-Aid, stop and think, how did you get here? Open your eyes, and maybe you'll be where you're meant to be, instead of in a devastating situation like this. Cheers.